In the heart of the vast Masai Mara National Reserve, a land of rolling savannas and golden plains, lies the pride of Fig Tree. It is a realm of formidable predators and unyielding beauty, where life thrives in its rawest form. Among the many lions that have roamed this land, few names carry the weight and legacy of the Fig Tree Boys, Olonyoki and Osupat. Born in April 2017, these two lions are the sons of Kaka and Maridadi, their bloodline tracing back to the legendary 4KM Coalition. The legacy of the 4KM Coalition, known for their dominance and strategic prowess, has echoed throughout the Masai Mara for years. This ancestry bestowed a heavy crown upon Olonyoki and Osupat even before they took their first steps. Olonyoki, whose name means red in honor of his reddish mane, carries an aura of intensity. His brother Osupat, known for his kind and friendly nature with pride members, balances their partnership with a more approachable demeanor. Together, they represent a unique harmony, strength and compassion, ferocity and loyalty. For the first 2 years of their lives, the brothers thrived under the protection of their parents and the Fig Tree Pride. They played in the tall grasses, learned to stalk prey, and watched the adults enforce the rules of survival. They were princes of their domain, destined to inherit a piece of this vast wilderness. Yet as every lion in the wild learns, paradise is fleeting. When Olonyoki and Osupat reached maturity, the time came for their parents to cast them out. This was no act of cruelty, but rather a law of survival. Male lions, upon reaching adulthood, are expelled from their birth pride to prevent competition for dominance and ensure the genetic diversity of the pride. It was a bittersweet departure. The Fig Tree Pride had been their sanctuary, a place of safety and belonging. But now they faced the harsh reality of life as nomads. No longer protected by the strength of their pride, they had to fend for themselves, wandering the savannah in search of food, shelter, and survival. Their first nights alone were filled with uncertainty. The once familiar sounds of the Mara, the distant roars, the rustle of wind through the grasses, the howls of hyenas, now seemed ominous. They faced hunger, avoiding territories patrolled by dominant males and scavenging for scraps left behind by other predators. Despite the challenges, the brothers had one advantage: each other. Olonyoki's aggression and determination complemented Osupat's calm and measured approach. Together they forged a bond that would become their greatest strength in the trials to come. Life as a nomad tested the Fig Tree Boys in ways they had never imagined. Hunting without the coordinated efforts of a pride was arduous, and scavenging often brought them into conflict with hyenas and other predators. Hello guys, if you like our stories and haven't subscribed yet, support our work and subscribe to the channel to help us. Their lean frames bore the marks of their struggles, scars from failed hunts, scratches from brushes with rival coalitions. Hunger gnawed at them, and the once bright promise of their lineage seemed distant. There were moments of doubt when the brothers questioned their place in this unforgiving world. One particularly harsh season brought them to the brink of despair. The prey was scarce, and the relentless sun parched the land. The brothers found themselves at the edge of the Talek River, their energy depleted. Osupat, ever the optimist, nudged Olonyoki to keep moving. But even he felt the weight of their misfortune. It was during these times that they seemed most vulnerable, shadows of the mighty lions they were destined to become. Yet, despite their struggles, they never gave up. The bond between them, forged in their earliest days, remained unbroken. The Fig Tree Boys' journey as nomads was not without its moments of learning. Observing other lions from a distance, they began to understand the intricacies of territoriality, strategy, and survival. They watched older coalitions mark their boundaries, roaring into the night to declare their presence. They learned to recognize the scent of rival males and the signs of a pride on the move. Slowly but surely, they began to piece together the skills needed to survive and eventually thrive. Their greatest lessons, however, came from the memory of their lineage. The tales of the 4KM Coalition, passed down through whispers of guides and the scars left on the Mara's landscape, served as their guide. The 4KM were known not only for their strength, but for their ability to outwit rivals and forge alliances when necessary. Olonyoki and Osupat internalized these lessons, practicing their hunting skills on smaller prey and honing their teamwork. Olonyoki, the bolder of the two, would lead the charge, while Osupat used his keen instincts to anticipate the prey's movements. Together, they began to rebuild their confidence. After years of wandering and surviving as nomads, the Fig Tree Boys reached a turning point. They stumbled upon a territory that had been left vulnerable, the pride of Enkooni. The resident males had grown weak, leaving the pride ripe for takeover. The brothers seized this opportunity with calculated precision. Their roars echoed through the savannah, a declaration of their intent to rule. The remaining males were driven out after a brief but fierce confrontation. Olonyoki and Osupat, once nondescript nomads, had claimed their first pride. With their newfound status as leaders of Enkooni, the Fig Tree Boys transitioned from survivors to rulers. They began to enforce their dominance, securing their territory and ensuring the safety of the pride. Their rule brought stability to the pride. Lionesses hunted under their watchful eyes, and cubs began to play in the shade of acacia trees. The brothers had finally begun to realize their potential, stepping into the roles they were born to fulfill. The Enkooni pride had found new leaders in Olonyoki and Osupat, but the road to solidifying their rule was far from over. As new rulers, the brothers had to assert their dominance not only over the pride, but also across the surrounding territories. Their first act was to patrol the borders, roaring loudly to announce their reign. The Fig Tree Boys marked the land, leaving no doubt that Enkooni was now under their protection. Their roars, deep and resonant, echoed through the savannah, a warning to all who dared to approach. But dominance came at a price. The pride's lionesses observed their new rulers carefully, testing the limits of their authority. Olonyoki's fiery nature often led to displays of aggression, while Osupat's calm presence reassured the pride. This balance was crucial in winning the trust of the lionesses. The first months were a delicate dance of power. The brothers chased away scavengers, drove off hyenas that dared approach the pride's kills, and defended the cubs as if they were their own. Over time, the pride began to accept them, and cubs sired by the previous males were allowed to live, a rare show of mercy in the lion world. Despite their unity, tensions occasionally brewed between the two brothers. As with most coalitions, disputes over mating rights arose. When the lionesses entered estrus, Olonyoki and Osupat often found themselves at odds. One particular incident saw the brothers locked in a fierce battle. A lioness, one of the pride's most experienced hunters, had drawn the attention of both males. Roars turned to growls, and claws flashed beneath the moonlight. The fight was brutal but brief. Osupat, though less aggressive by nature, held his ground. Ultimately, Olonyoki relented, recognizing the importance of maintaining their coalition over temporary disputes. The tension passed and the pride returned to normal. This rivalry, while intense at times, never fractured their bond. It was an essential part of their dynamic, a constant reminder that even brothers must compete to survive in the wild. As Olonyoki and Osupat expanded their influence, they attracted the attention of neighboring coalitions. The Lemek Boys, a fierce duo known for their relentless ambition, posed the greatest threat. The first encounter came at dawn near the northern boundary of Enkooni's territory. The Lemek Boys, younger but equally determined, crossed into Fig Tree land, their scent lingering in the air. Olonyoki was the first to respond, his roar cutting through the stillness. Osupat joined him, and together they confronted the intruders. What followed was not an immediate clash of claws, but a tense standoff. The brothers circled each other, growling low, testing the resolve of their rivals. In this instance, the Fig Tree Boys held their ground. The Lemek Boys retreated, unwilling to risk injury. But the message was clear. The fight for territory was far from over. Time passed and the Fig Tree Boys continued to strengthen their hold. Cubs born under their reign flourished, and the pride grew. Yet as they thrived, shadows loomed on the horizon. The Black Rock Boys, one of the most formidable coalitions in the Mara, began to encroach on the Fig Tree territory. Led by Olobor and Oloshipa, the Black Rock Boys were known for their relentless expansion and brutal efficiency in taking over prides. One fateful evening, Olonyoki and Osupat discovered fresh tracks near the Talek River. The Black Rock Boys had crossed into their land. Tension mounted as the Fig Tree Boys prepared for a potential confrontation. For days, the coalition stalked each other from afar, neither willing to strike first. Olonyoki, ever the aggressor, pushed for confrontation, while Osupat counseled patience. The inevitable clash occurred near the heart of Enkooni. The roars of 4 lions filled the night, shaking the savannah. The battle was fierce, with claws tearing through flesh and fangs snapping at throats. By dawn, the Fig Tree Boys emerged victorious, though bloodied and bruised. The Black Rock Boys retreated, their advance halted, but not for long. Despite external threats, the pride flourished. Lionesses bore new cubs, and the next generation of fig tree lions began to emerge. Olonyoki and Osupat, once nomads struggling to survive, had become fathers and protectors of a thriving lineage. Osupat, true to his nature, was a gentle and affectionate father. He often played with the cubs, allowing them to tug at his mane and swat at his tail. Olonyoki, though more stoic, stood as a watchful guardian, ever alert to dangers that lurked beyond the pride. The brothers' dynamic brought balance to the pride. Together, they ensured that the cubs grew strong, teaching them the ways of survival. The Enkooni pride's success led to natural expansion. The Fig Tree Boys began patrolling further, marking new boundaries that stretched beyond their original territory. Their expansion, however, did not go unnoticed. The Black Rock Boys, now recovering, began to test their limits once again. Reports surfaced of Olobor and Oloshipa prowling near the southern borders, their presence a constant reminder that the fight for dominance never truly ends. In one of the most daring encounters, the Black Rock Boys crossed the river, pushing deep into Fig Tree territory. Olonyoki and Osupat responded swiftly, leading the pride in a show of force that drove the intruders back. Yet as the sun set over the Mara, both brothers knew that this was not the last time they would face the Black Rock Boys. The Fig Tree Boys had become more than just rulers of Enkooni. They were legends in the making. Their resilience, unity, and unyielding determination had secured their place in the annals of Masai Mara's history. But the greatest test was yet to come. As Olonyoki and Osupat stood atop the hill overlooking their pride, they knew that the battles they had fought were only the beginning. In the Mara, dominance is fleeting, and survival is never guaranteed. Yet, as long as they stood together, the Fig Tree Boys would continue to reign, brothers bound by blood, destiny, and the call of the wild. The golden savanna of Masai Mara stretched endlessly, but peace rarely lingered for long. Olonyoki and Osupat had ruled the Enkooni pride for years, but their reign was entering a fragile chapter. Whispers of the Black Rock Boys' return echoed across the Mara, and the Fig Tree Boys knew that the inevitable confrontation would soon arrive. It began with subtle signs. Lionesses returned from hunts, reporting distant roars, and fresh tracks near the Talek River hinted at the presence of Olobor and Oloshipa. The Black Rock Boys were recovering, growing stronger and hungrier for territory. Olonyoki and Osupat increased their patrols, reinforcing the pride's borders. Each dawn was met with roaring proclamations, as if to remind the Mara that the Fig Tree Boys still reigned. But even as they asserted dominance, the tension simmered beneath the surface. Then came the night that shifted the balance. Under the cover of darkness, Olobor and Oloshipa crossed the river once more, this time with purpose. The lioness's low growls woke the brothers. As the moon bathed the land in silver light, the coalitions met face to face. It was a primal clash of strength, will, and legacy. Olonyoki and Osupat, standing side by side, squared off against the Black Rock Boys. The fight erupted in a whirlwind of claws and fangs. Olonyoki lunged at Olobor, their roars blending into a feral symphony of dominance. Osupat faced Oloshipa, their bodies rolling through the tall grass in a blur of violence. The pride watched from a distance, powerless to interfere, but witnesses to the battle that would determine their fate. Blood stained the savannah as the lions tore into each other. Olonyoki, driven by his relentless fire, fought with unmatched fury. Yet Olobor, a seasoned warrior, did not yield easily. Nearby, Osupat's patience and precision wore down Oloshipa, his calm demeanor hiding the fierce protector beneath. As the sun crept over the horizon, the dust settled. The Fig Tree Boys stood victorious, panting heavily, but alive. The Black Rock Boys retreated once again, limping back across the river. Victory, however, came at a cost. Olonyoki bore a deep wound across his shoulder, and Osupat's eye was swollen shut. The scars of the battle marked their bodies, but their pride was safe. In the days following the battle, the Enkooni pride thrived. Lionesses hunted successfully, cubs played under the watchful eyes of their mothers, and the fig tree boys remained vigilant. Despite their injuries, Olonyoki and Osupat continued to patrol. The bond between them had grown even stronger, forged through years of hardship and battles fought side by side. Yet the brothers knew that time was no longer on their side. Their wounds, while healing, were reminders that age would soon catch up with them. As dominant males, their days of absolute rule were finite. But even in the face of inevitable change, the brothers found solace in what they had built. Cubs sired under their reign were now young subadults, and the legacy of the fig tree boys flowed through their veins. One evening, Osupat watched as his cubs chased butterflies along the riverbank. Olonyoki lay nearby, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "We've done well," Osupat said softly, his voice carrying the weight of years. Olonyoki nodded. "The Mara remembers those who fight for it." As time passed, new coalitions began to emerge. The Salas boys, a trio of powerful young males, began to stake their claim on the outskirts of the fig tree territory. Unlike the Blackrock boys, the Salas boys were younger, ambitious, and untested. They represented the inevitable cycle of nature, young challengers rising to overthrow the old kings. The fig tree boys watched them from afar, recognizing the glint of hunger in their eyes. Olonyoki, now with a mane streaked with grey, seemed unbothered. "Let them try," he growled, but Osupat sensed the shift in the wind. The day of reckoning came when the Salas boys crossed into fig tree land. The confrontation, however, did not erupt into violence. Instead, the Salas boys circled the pride at a distance, watching carefully as if assessing their competition. Olonyoki and Osupat stood their ground but did not engage. The unspoken truth hung heavy in the air. The fig tree boys were no longer at their peak. The Mara belonged to the young now. In an act of wisdom, Osupat led the pride to a safer area further north, allowing the Salas boys to claim the southern reaches of the territory. It was not a retreat, but rather a passing of the torch, an acknowledgement that their reign, while glorious, was not eternal. Over time, the Salas boys took over parts of Enkooni, but Olonyoki and Osupat continued to protect the core pride. The brothers lived out their days in peace, focusing on their cubs and the continuation of their lineage. One by one, the Salas boys began to respect the elder lions, coexisting rather than challenging them directly. It was an unusual but harmonious balance, rare in the wild. Years later, the story of Olonyoki and Osupat became legend. Guides and visitors to Masai Mara spoke of the fig tree boys, two brothers who ruled with strength and wisdom, protecting their pride against all odds. Their cubs grew into powerful lions, spreading across the Mara and carrying forward the bloodline of the legendary 4KM. Though their physical presence faded from the savannah, their legacy remained woven into the land itself. Each roar that echoed at dawn was a reminder. The fig tree boys had left an indelible mark. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the Mara in hues of gold and crimson, two lions stood on a distant hilltop. Young but familiar, they gazed over the land with the same fire that once burned in Olonyoki and Osupat's eyes. The cycle continued, as it always would. The fig tree boys lived on, in spirit, in story, and in the very heart of Masai Mara. If you enjoy these fascinating documentaries about wildlife, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Until next time.